What started as an awkward interspecies misunderstanding turned into something far more dangerous and far more intimate. When a curious alien landlady stumbled upon her human tenant's very private anatomy, she laughed. When she fell for him, she risked everything. But when she learned the secret he was hiding, the secret that could shatter worlds, everything changed. And now, someone wanted him dead. Reed Holden had just arrived on Fex 5, a glowing, crystal-covered planet orbiting twin suns. He squinted as he stepped out of his rented hovercar, the heat pressing down on him like a thick blanket. With a duffel bag over his shoulder, he looked up at the shimmering tower that would be his new home. It looked nothing like the apartment listings back on Earth, but the price had been too good to ignore. Unit 731. That's what the confirmation said. Inside the building, a smooth glass elevator carried him to the 7th floor. The door to his unit sparkled like it was made of liquid rainbow. He reached out and pressed the intercom button. The door slid open instantly. There she stood. She was tall, her skin a smooth shade of emerald green that shimmered under the sunlight pouring in through the hallway windows. Her eyes were amethyst, deep and glowing, and her hair was seafoam blue cascading down her back like silk. She wore a long, flowing tunic that clung to her in just the right places. She smiled, soft, warm, and curious. "You must be the human," she said, her voice musical, almost hypnotic. "I am Kikala, your landlady. Please come in." Reed tried not to stare. He offered his hand awkwardly. "Reed Holden, it's nice to meet you." She looked at his hand for a second, clearly unsure, then gently clasped it in both of hers. Her skin was cool and smooth. "Welcome, Reed Holden." She showed him around. The apartment, a high-ceilinged place filled with strange prismatic furniture and glowing plants that gave off sweet scents. When she opened the door to the bedroom, the view nearly knocked the breath out of him. The alien city stretched out below, glittering like stardust. He thanked her, and she nodded gracefully before gliding away down the hallway. He set down his bag and went straight to the bathroom, desperate to wash off the grime of the long spaceflight. The bathroom was futuristic, glass walls, glowing panels, and a shower that sprayed in all directions. He stripped off his clothes and stepped in, sighing as the hot water hit his sore muscles. It felt incredible. He was just lathering his hair when the bathroom door slid open. Kikala stood in the doorway, wide-eyed. Reed froze. Her gaze dropped, and then her head tilted. Stars above. Human male. "Why do you have a mini shy hulud between your legs?" Reed yelped, fumbling to cover himself. "What the hell, don't you knock?" Kikala didn't flinch. She simply stepped closer, staring with open curiosity. "Is that normal? It looks like a juvenile sandworm, coiled, aggressive." Reed groaned, his face turning red. "It's called a penis. Yes, it's normal. And I'd like some privacy. Please." She blinked slowly, clearly confused. "Ah, privacy. I forgot humans have taboos about bodily functions." She turned, apparently unbothered. "Dinner will be ready in half a rotation." She left. Just like that. Reed stood there, stunned. His heart was racing, his mind spinning. He finished his shower in record time, dried off, and got dressed. When he returned to the main room, he found Kikala setting out food. Colorful dishes, strange shapes, steaming bowls of something that smelled amazing. She patted the cushion beside her. "Come, Reed Holden. I hope you are hungry." He sat beside her, trying to ignore how her dress clung when she moved. "Please, just call me Reed." They began to eat. The food was surprisingly delicious, full of odd but pleasant flavors. Conversation started slow but grew easier. She asked questions about Earth, about human biology, about mating habits. "So, your species inserts this penis during coupling?" she asked innocently, sipping a bright purple drink. Reed nearly choked. Yes, that's part of how humans reproduce." She leaned closer, intrigued. "How fascinating. So it's not a ritual? Just physical contact?" It can be a lot more than physical, he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck. There's romance, emotion, connection. Kikala tilted her head. Romance? That is, flirting? Seduction? He swallowed hard. Something like that. Show me, she said softly. Reed blinked. What? This flirting? I want to understand. Her eyes sparkled. Her voice dropped just slightly. And in that moment, Reed felt like he'd stepped off the edge of a cliff. This wasn't just a misunderstanding anymore. This was the start of something wild, dangerous. And if he wasn't careful, it might cost him everything. Reed didn't sleep much that night. Not because of the time difference or the strange sense of the alien city drifting through his open window, but because of Kikala, her eyes, her voice, her request. Show me, she had said. Flirting. A single word that flipped his world upside down. He tossed and turned, imagining all the ways this could go wrong. He was here on a mission. He wasn't supposed to form relationships, let alone flirt with a native species. But his heart, and maybe other parts of him, didn't seem to care. Something about her pulled at him like gravity. The next morning, Kikala was waiting for him in the kitchen, humming a soft tune that made the glowing plants sway. She wore a new outfit, deep violet, more elegant than before, but no less distracting. Her smile was calm, but her eyes watched him closely, like she was studying a puzzle. Sleep well, Reed? She asked, pouring him a cup of steaming blue liquid. He nodded, though it was a lie. Yeah, great. Thanks. She sipped her drink and tilted her head, still watching. You're lying. He blinked. What? I studied Earth facial patterns last night, she said. You lie when you press your lips together like that, and when you avoid eye contact. Reed rubbed his face, groaning. Okay, no, I didn't sleep well. You kind of messed with my head last night. Her smile widened. Good. That was my intention. She turned and walked toward the balcony, the breeze playing with her hair. Reed followed, his chest tightening. You're serious about this, he said, joining her at the edge. She glanced at him. About you? Yes. You barely know me. True. But I want to know you. That stopped him. Her voice was softer now, not teasing, not flirtatious, just honest. He looked down at the city. Floating cars zipped through the air, and crystalline buildings sparkled like sunlight on water. It was beautiful, but none of it compared to the green-skinned woman beside him. I'm not what you think, he said quietly. Kikala turned toward him. Then tell me what you are. He hesitated. I'm not just a visitor, I work for a human science council. I'm here to study your people, to observe. Some might say, spy. She didn't react the way he expected. No anger, no betrayal. Just silence. Then she nodded slowly. I already guessed, she said. Reed's head snapped up. You what? Kikala shrugged. Your scans, your datapads, the way you watch everything so closely. It was obvious, but I wanted to see if you would tell me. Why didn't you confront me? Because I was hoping you were better than your mission. Reed stared at her, stunned. You're not mad? I should be, she said, stepping closer. But I'm not, because I've watched you too. You didn't come here to hurt anyone. You came to understand and maybe to be understood. Reed let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. The tension between them changed, less like a game now, more like the beginning of something real. They stood there in silence, the twin suns warming their skin, their shadows overlapping on the floor. Then Kikala turned toward him again, her expression unreadable. Do humans believe in fate? She asked. Reed nodded. Some do. Then maybe it was fate that brought us together. The next few days passed in a blur of routines that slowly turned into rituals. Reed would go out during the day, collecting samples and studying the local wildlife. while Kekala stayed behind managing the building and attending her cultural duties. But every evening without fail, they'd meet on the balcony, eat dinner, talk, tease, and every night, Kekala would ask him a question more personal than the last. Why do humans kiss with their mouths? Do your people believe love can happen quickly? Have you ever been in love before? Reed answered honestly each time. Sometimes awkwardly, sometimes with stories, sometimes with a long silence and a small smile. But Kekala never pressed him. She just listened. One evening, as they sat watching the purple moon rise over the horizon, she reached out and took his hand for the first time. Her fingers were cool and smooth. Reed stared down at their joined hands, the sight both strange and beautiful. I asked my mother once what love feels like, Kekala said quietly. She told me it's like two different songs that suddenly find the same rhythm. Reed looked up at her. And do you think we're in rhythm? She turned to him, eyes glowing in the moonlight. I think we're getting closer. They didn't kiss. Not yet. But in that moment, something shifted. Their bond deepened, not because of a physical spark, but because of trust. But as the night grew darker, something changed. Reed's communicator buzzed with a coded message. Unauthorized intel leak detected. Target possibly compromised. Extreme caution advised. His stomach dropped. Kekala noticed the way his expression changed and touched his arm gently. Is everything okay? Reed swallowed hard and looked into her eyes. He wanted to lie, but he couldn't anymore. Someone new. Someone dangerous. And they were coming. I think I've just put you in danger, he said. And just like that, the warmth between them turned cold. Not because the feeling faded. The next morning, the air in the apartment felt heavier. Reed stood at the window staring out at the glittering skyline of FEX 5, but his mind was elsewhere. The message on his communicator had shaken him. Target possibly compromised. That meant someone knew about him, about his mission. But worse, it meant Kekala might be in danger because of him. She entered the room, her hair still wet from a shower, wrapped in a long, dark robe that shimmered with silver threads. She moved with her usual grace, but when she looked at him, her smile didn't quite reach her eyes. You didn't sleep again, she said softly, pouring him a cup of blue tea. Reed shook his head. Too much on my mind. Kekala sat across from him at the low table. The message had frightened you. He didn't bother pretending anymore. Yeah, it did. Do you think it's from your people? Maybe. Or maybe it's someone else. Maybe. Someone on your side. Her eyes narrowed, the gentle playfulness gone. Like Fox. Reed nodded. He'd only heard of Fox once, mentioned in passing, when Kekala talked about old relationships. But the name had always sounded like trouble. Now it was starting to feel like a shadow that had been creeping closer every day. He's not just an ex-lover, she said. He's a government official, high-ranking and petty. What happened between you two? Kekala's gaze drifted out the window. He wanted ownership, not partnership. When I told him I wouldn't be his, he didn't take it well. And now, seeing me with you, especially you being human, I can't imagine how deep that wound cuts. Reed felt a chill settle into his spine. He could have been the one who sent the raiders. He absolutely could, she said flatly. And if he did, he won't stop at one warning. They sat in silence for a while, the unspoken truth building between them. This wasn't just a cultural misunderstanding anymore. This wasn't just curiosity, or even forbidden romance. This was becoming war. Later that day, Reed went out on his usual route, collecting samples from the outer districts. He tried to focus, taking scans of plant life, collecting soil, but something felt wrong. Too quiet, too clean. The usual street vendors were gone. Shops were closed. Even the sky traffic seemed slower. He didn't notice the shadow following him until it was too late. A hoverbike buzzed low, and something metallic clattered near his feet. Smoke erupted instantly, and two cloaked figures rushed him. Reed barely dodged, tumbling behind a stall. His heart pounded as instinct kicked in. He grabbed the emergency beacon on his belt and slammed his thumb down. The device hissed, flashed, exploded in a burst of white light. The attackers reeled back, stunned just long enough for Reed to sprint down a narrow alley. His lungs burned as he ran, every footstep echoing against metal walls. He ducked into a maintenance shaft and climbed 3 floors before reaching the street again. By the time he reached the apartment tower, his shirt was torn, and a cut bled down the side of his face. Kikala opened the door before he could knock, her eyes wide. "Reed, I was followed," he gasped. "Someone tried to grab me. 2 of them. They weren't local." Kikala pulled him inside and locked the door behind them. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was calm. "We need to go." "Go where?" She didn't answer. Instead, she walked straight to the far wall of the apartment and pressed her palm to a glass panel. The wall hissed and slid open, revealing a narrow passage lit by dim violet lights. "A safe room," she said. "My father built it years ago, in case of political enemies." Reed stepped inside. The space was small but fully equipped. Rations, monitors, sleeping pads, even a small medical station. As the wall sealed behind them, Reed turned to her, trying to slow his breathing. "You were right," he said. "This isn't just about your ex or my mission. Someone wants us gone. Or worse." Kikala's hands cupped his face gently. "Then let them come. But they'll have to go through both of us." In the silence of the safe room, the air thick with tension and the hum of hidden machinery, Reed reached out. His fingers brushed against Kikala's cheek. "I can't stop thinking about that night," he admitted. She leaned into his touch. "The one where I asked you to show me how humans flirt?" Reed chuckled, though it came out shaky. "Yeah, that one." Her lips curved. "Then why didn't you?" He hesitated. "Because I didn't want it to just be flirting." The pause that followed was heavier than anything before it. Kikala's eyes shimmered in the low light. She stepped closer. "Neither did I." Their kiss, when it happened, wasn't sudden. It was slow, almost shy. A meeting of 2 worlds that had no map for this. Reed's hand tangled in her soft hair as her arms wrapped around him, pulling them together as if the universe had always meant for this moment to happen. In that hidden chamber, with chaos building outside, Reed didn't feel fear for the first time in days. He felt something else, like maybe, just maybe, love could still win, even across galaxies, even against all odds. But as their lips parted and she rested her head against his chest, Reed opened his eyes and saw the red light blinking on the security monitor. Someone was outside. Someone was coming. The red blinking light on the security monitor pulsed like a heartbeat. Outside the sealed walls of the safe room, shadowy figures moved through the hallway. 4 of them. No uniforms, no markings, but each carried long-barreled weapons and moved with perfect coordination. Whoever they weren't local, law enforcement, and they weren't just there to intimidate. "They're sweeping the apartment," Kikala whispered. "Looking for us." Reed leaned over the monitor controls and activated the sound sensor. The voices were muffled, but one came through clearer than the rest. Deep, cold, precise. "Find the human. The council wants him alive, but break the landlady if she resists." Kikala's eyes narrowed. "That voice, I know it." Reed turned to her. "Fox?" "No," she said, and the word was laced with a deeper dread. "Worse. That's Commander Jorvik. He works under Fox, Secret Ops Division. If he's here, this isn't just a jealous ex making noise. This is political, governmental." Reed felt his gut twist. "They know I'm here. They know I'm not just a tourist. And they know we're together," she added. "This isn't a scare tactic anymore. It's a cleanup operation." Reed stepped back from the monitor, mind racing. "I need to contact Earth. Let them know the mission's compromised." Kikala grabbed his arm gently. "Before you do, I need to show you something." She moved to the far wall of the safe room and opened a hidden panel. Inside was a locked case, glowing faintly with internal light. She placed her palm on it. The case clicked and opened with a quiet hiss. Inside, nestled in black foam, were a series of glowing glass discs, memory cores. "These," she said, "are recordings, evidence, surveillance logs, from when I was still with Fox." Reed frowned. "Why do you still have them?" Kekala's gaze was fierce. "Because they prove he's not just dangerous. He's a traitor. He's been selling Felian biological secrets to off-world buyers, including black-market Terran groups." Reed stared at her in shock. "You're serious?" She nodded. "I was supposed to destroy them, but I didn't. I couldn't. I knew. One day someone would need the truth." Reed looked at the glowing cores with new understanding. "You were never just a landlady, were you?" A small smile curved her lips. "I told you I wear many hats." "So they're not just after me," Reed muttered. "They're after this data. You and you," she said quietly. "Because we're connected now, and because you might be the only one who can get this into the right hands." Reed paced the narrow space, hands on his head. The safe room wasn't going to protect them forever. Sooner or later, the guards would realize they were missing and start tearing the walls apart. "We need a way out," he said. "There's an escape tunnel," Kekala replied, "but it opens 3 floors below. We'll have to distract them." Reed looked at her. "I'll go. I'll draw them toward the upper levels." She grabbed his wrist. "Don't even think about it. We don't both have to take the risk." "No," she said, eyes flashing. "We're in this together. You said that." He hesitated, then nodded. "Together." They activated the decoy protocol on the apartment AI. A shimmering hologram of Reed began pacing through the main room, perfectly lifelike. A second projection showed Kekala seated by the dining table, pretending to eat. "Let's hope they're not too smart," Reed muttered. "They're soldiers," she replied. "They're trained to see enemies, not illusions." With the distraction live, Kekala opened a hatch near the floor and led Reed into a narrow crawl space. They moved fast, hands and knees scraping against smooth stone and cold metal. The hum of the building's core surrounded them. Halfway down, Reed paused. "When were you going to tell me?" "Tell you what?" she whispered. "That you've been keeping government evidence in your apartment. That you're more than just a beautiful alien with great taste in furniture." She smiled in the darkness. "Would you have rented the place if I told you the truth?" Reed grinned, despite the situation. "Honestly? Yeah, I still would have." They made it to the 3rd floor hatch without incident. But as Kekala reached for the panel, her hand froze. Outside the vent, a voice spoke. "Target was last seen here. Command says he may have an accomplice, possibly pregnant." Reed's blood turned cold. "What did he say?" Kekala's face went pale. "They know." He stared at her. "Kekala, are you—" She didn't answer right away. Her hand slowly lowered from the panel. Then she turned to him, eyes wide, voice low and shaking. "I found out this morning. I took a test. Twice." Reed blinked, stunned. "You're pregnant?" She nodded. "I wasn't sure how you'd react." He laughed, a short, stunned sound. "That's the second biggest surprise I've had today. And the first? You're a secret rebel with spy data in her bedroom wall." She smiled faintly. "And you're a spy from another world who made me feel alive again." Reed reached out and took her hand, squeezing it. "We're going to be okay." "We have to be," she whispered. "For the baby." The vent suddenly shook with force. Metal groaned. A blast rocked the floor below. "They found the safe room," Reed said. Kekala pressed the exit panel and the door slid open into a quiet hallway lit by soft emergency lights. They stepped out quickly and began moving toward the maintenance tunnel. Reed carried the memory cores. Kekala led the way. Behind them, the sounds of boots on metal echoed through the halls. But something had changed in both of them. This wasn't just survival now, it was war. They weren't just two strangers caught in a cosmic misunderstanding. They were fugitives, rebels, lovers, and now, parents-to-be. And as the tunnel sealed behind them, Reed knew one thing with perfect clarity. He wasn't running away from something anymore. He was running toward something, toward truth, toward love, toward a future worth fighting for, even if it meant going against two entire worlds. The maintenance tunnel was tight, cold, and silent, except for the distant echoes of boots and the soft hum of the building's systems. Reed and Kikala moved quickly, every step pressing them further into the unknown. Neither spoke, not because they didn't have things to say, but because they couldn't afford distraction. The moment they let their guard down, the moment they paused to breathe, they would lose everything. The stolen memory cores bounced gently in Reed's bag. Inside them was enough evidence to expose a government conspiracy, to ruin Fox and bring down everyone he'd sold secrets to. But they were more than that now. They were the key to saving their child's future. Reed kept glancing at Kikala, her features glowing softly in the low red lights of the tunnel. She moved like someone who had spent years preparing for this moment. And in a way she had, but he could still see it in her eyes, the fear, not for herself, for him, for the baby, for what they might lose. At the tunnel's end, they emerged into a hidden transport bay beneath the tower. A single vehicle sat in the shadows, a sleek, silver hoverpod shaped like a stingray. Kikala moved to it and activated the ignition pad. The pod purred to life. "I didn't know you had a getaway ship," Reed said, half grinning. Kikala smirked. "You think I'd keep spy evidence and not plan an escape? Please, I may be in love, but I'm not stupid." That made Reed freeze. "You're in love?" She paused, hand on the controls. "You didn't know? I mean, I hoped." His voice went quiet. "But I didn't want to assume." She turned to him, expression softening. "Reed Holden, I've been falling for you since the first time you blushed when I walked into the shower." Despite everything, he smiled. "That was definitely not my best moment." "It was one of mine," she whispered. They didn't have time for a kiss, not now, but the look they shared said more than words could. The hoverpod lifted off, silent and fast, zipping into the winding undercity of Fex 5. They flew beneath bridges of glowing glass and past towering pipes that pumped life into the city above. Reed activated a secure channel to his Earth team. "This is Agent Holden. Code Gray 17. I've been compromised and I'm not alone." Static. Then a voice. "Holden? Is that you? We've been tracking noise around Fex 5 for hours. Did you blow up a lobby?" "Sort of," Reed said. "Listen, there's a government operation running under Fox's command. Black market biotrade may be worse. I have evidence. You'll need to bring it in. I'm bringing someone else too. Two someones." A long pause. Then, "Understood. We'll prep extraction. Location? Not yet. We're still being followed." They cut the transmission. Kikala pushed the hoverpod harder. Behind them, red lights flickered in the darkness. Pursuers, fast ones, armed. "They found us," she said. Reed grabbed the side handles, eyes scanning the shadows. "Do you know this route?" "I know every inch of this undercity." "Hold on." The pod dove into a narrow gap between support beams. Lasers sparked behind them, missing by inches. Reed swore. "They're trying to disable the ship." Then, "We don't give them a clean shot," Kikala muttered. She turned sharply, causing the pod to skim so close to a wall that the outer layer sparked. Reed nearly hit the ceiling, his breath caught between fear and adrenaline, but they weren't fast enough. One of the enemy pods caught up. A warning shot blasted near the left wing. "Reed," Kikala called. "Under your seat, press the green." Triangle, he did, and a hidden panel flipped open, revealing a mounted pulse cannon. "Seriously? You armed this thing?" "I told you. I like to be ready." Reed grabbed the controls, swiveled the cannon, and aimed at the closing pod. "One chance," he muttered. He fired. The shot lit the tunnel in white light. It struck the enemy ship dead center and sent it spiraling into a metal pillar in a ball of fire. Reed blinked. Okay, I might actually be turned on right now. Kikala grinned. Later. Escape first, seduction second. They rocketed out of the Undercity into open desert. The sky above was darkening into twin twilight. In the distance, a set of mountains loomed. Hidden within one of them was Kikala's final card, a rebel outpost, an old one. Forgotten. She set the coordinates. We can hide there until the extraction team gets close enough. But Reed wasn't so sure. They'll be watching the sky, tracking any signals. We need a decoy. I have one. Back in the city, the wreckage of their pursuers smoldered in the tunnels. Fox stood above the remains, eyes cold, lips tight. He wasn't shouting. He wasn't angry. He was calculating. Track their escape path, he said to the commander beside him. We already are, the Felian soldier replied. They're headed for the desert range. Fox's eyes narrowed. No, they're not. They want us to think that. What do you suggest? Fox turned. Deploy the drones. Scan for heat signatures, find the human, find her, and bring them to me alive. Aboard the hoverpod, Reed's communicator buzzed again. He opened it and froze. What is it? Kikala asked. They sent a message, he said. But it wasn't from my superiors. It's a direct threat. He turned the screen toward her. A simple image, a map of Earth, marked in red. They're not just trying to stop us, Reed said. They're threatening Earth. They're willing to start a war. Kikala stared at the map. They see us as a virus, something unnatural. Reed looked at her. Then we show them something worse. She blinked. Worse? He nodded. Hope. Outside, the hoverpod, the desert winds howled, but inside something stronger stirred. Not fear, not anger, something far more dangerous. Conviction. They weren't just fleeing anymore. They were fighting back, and the galaxy wasn't ready. The desert air turned bitter cold as the twin suns dipped behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the sand. Reed and Kikala's hoverpod skimmed just above the ground, the engine humming low to avoid detection. A gust of wind swept fine silver dust across the path, hiding their tracks, but also reducing visibility. Inside the pod, the mood was heavy. Not because of the silence, but because of everything they now knew. Fox had made his move. And it wasn't just about jealousy. He was using Reed and Kikala as an excuse to ignite something far bigger. A war between Earth and Fex 5. One species versus another. Fear versus love. Hatred versus truth. And somehow Reed had become the spark in the middle of it all. Kikala adjusted the coordinates and pointed ahead to a jagged outcrop of stone. There. That's the entrance. The rebel outpost is inside the mountain. Reed nodded but didn't respond. His hand rested on her stomach. Ever since the scan confirmed it, he kept doing that, touching her belly gently like he still couldn't believe there was a new life growing inside. She glanced at him. You're too quiet. He let out a slow breath. I'm thinking about what happens after. After what? After we send the evidence, after Earth picks us up, after we expose Fox and his black market deals. Kikala's voice softened. You think it ends there? Reed looked at her, his jaw tightening. No, that's what scares me. I think it starts there. They reached the mountain entrance and slid into a narrow tunnel that led to a hidden docking bay carved inside the rock. As the hoverpod powered down, heavy doors closed behind them, sealing them in complete darkness for a moment before the emergency lights flickered on. Reed grabbed the bag with the memory cores while Kikala accessed a terminal embedded in the stone wall. She entered a passcode, one that hadn't been used in years. The lights buzzed to life, revealing a massive hollowed-out space filled with old tech, dust-covered crates, and unused surveillance equipment. This place belonged to my grandfather, Kikala explained as they stepped into the command room. He was part of the original resistance back when Felian leaders began trading secrets to off-worlders. He always said one day we'd need a safe place to regroup. Reed looked around at the dusty terminals. Looks like today's that day. They got to work. Reed set up a secure uplink to Earth using a hidden communications array powered by the mountain itself. Kikala input the data cores, scanning and encrypting the files. Every second ticked like a countdown. They knew Fox wasn't far behind. "Reed," Kikala said suddenly. "There's a problem." He moved to her side. "What is it?" "One of the cores is damaged, the one with the trade routes and names. If we don't have that, Fox walks free." Reed stared at the corrupted data. His mind moved fast. What if I go to him?" Kikala's eyes snapped to his. "What?" "I challenge him. Publicly. In front of the High Tribunal." Kikala blinked. "You'd never get close." "I'm human," he said. "I have the right to demand a trial of truth under Felian law. If I win, he's forced to surrender. And if I lose..." He didn't finish the sentence. Kikala grabbed his hand. "That's suicide." "Not if we play it right," Reed said. "The people already know something's wrong, they just need proof. A push." Kikala searched his face. "You really want to do this?" Reed nodded. "I'm not running anymore. I'm done hiding. We have a child coming. I won't let them be born into a galaxy ruled by fear." A long pause. Then she pressed her forehead against his. "Then we do it together." The next day, the message was sent. A single transmission, beamed across Felian networks and intercepted by Earth's long-range stations. "I am Reed Holden, of Earth. I invoke the ancient right of challenge. Fox of House Valar has broken sacred trust. He deals in death. He sold the soul of this planet for power. I demand a trial of truth." It spread like wildfire. Within hours, the arena was prepared. The trial of truth, an ancient Felian tradition older than any government. Part duel, part debate, part test of heart. One challenger, one defender, and 3 judges to decide who speaks truth. No weapons, no armies, just spirit, will, and raw conviction. Reed stood inside the arena beneath a pale sky, dressed in ceremonial Felian robes that looked ridiculous on him, but somehow made the moment real. The arena was packed. Thousands of Felian citizens had come, watching silently from the glowing crystal seats that circled the sandpit. Hover drones recorded everything for broadcast across the planet, and to Earth. On the opposite side, Fox entered with regal swagger, his silver robe trailing behind him like smoke. He smirked as he looked across the distance between them. "A human," he sneered, "demanding judgment in our court. You think your love affair and your scandalous union give you the right to speak here?" Reed didn't flinch. "I think truth gives me that right." The judges nodded. The trial began. It started with words. Reed stood in the center and recounted everything: his mission, his observations, the relationship he formed with Kikala, and the attack on their lives. He told them about the evidence, the memory cores, and the corrupted data. He even told them about the baby growing inside Kikala. He didn't cry, but his voice shook when he said, "This child represents what your council fears most: hope." Fox stepped forward, spinning words like daggers. He called Reed a manipulator, a seducer, a spy who corrupted a pure Felian woman and brought foreign infection to their world. He accused Kikala of betrayal, called the child unnatural. Reed didn't speak. He let the silence hang. Then he said calmly, "What's more unnatural, love or fear?" The audience shifted. People whispered. Then came the final test. The judges held out a memory rod. It glowed, blue, alive with Felian soul energy. The trial demanded a memory be offered, one of pain, truth, and vulnerability. Kikala stepped forward. "I offer mine," she said. "The moment I realized I loved a man who risked his life to protect me, despite what it might cost him." She placed her hands on the rod. It glowed. The image burst into the air above the arena, a memory from the panic room, the fear, the closeness, the kiss. The crowd gasped, not because of the intimacy, but because it was real. No act, no lies, just two souls, different and brave, choosing each other despite the chaos around them. Fox growled. "This is sentiment, not truth." Reed stepped forward. "Truth without feeling is control. You've built your power on fear. I'm building mine on love." The rod glowed again. The judges turned inward, speaking softly. Then the lead judge raised her hand. "The truth is revealed," she said. "Fox of House Valor is stripped of status and rank. He is guilty." A roar went through the crowd. Reed's legs nearly gave out. Kikala rushed into the arena. He caught her, buried his face in her shoulder. The war wasn't over. But the tide had turned, and for the first time, hope didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like a beginning. Cheers echoed across the arena like thunder. Fox had been defeated, not by force, but by truth. And the truth had spoken loud enough for the whole galaxy to hear. Reed stood frozen, the center of the arena, surrounded by thousands of Felians watching, cheering, whispering his name. A human, an outsider, and now a symbol. Kikala held his hand tightly, as if afraid someone might still try to rip him away. But no one came. No guards, no attacks. Only the gentle, warm hum of thousands of people beginning to believe in something new. Their bond had changed everything. The memory rod still glowed faintly on the sand beside them, humming with the echo of Kikala's truth. Her love, her fear, her hope. "It's done," she whispered. "You did it." Reed shook his head. "We did it." They turned to the judges who waited at the top of the crystal stairs. The lead judge, a tall female with silver scales and a sunburst tattoo on, her brow stepped forward and spoke into the quiet. "This tribunal recognizes the validity of the bond between Reed Holden of Earth and Kikala of House Varn," she said. "No longer will unions between species be considered shameful or unnatural. From this day forward, what is born of love will be protected by law." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Reed blinked, stunned. Even Kikala's hand tightened in his. "You mean..." "Yes," the judge confirmed. "Your child will not be hunted. They will be honored." Kikala's eyes welled with tears she couldn't blink away. Reed just nodded, speechless. For once, the man who had crossed galaxies with a sharp tongue and a sharper mind had no words. Only a heart so full it felt like it might burst. But the victory was not the end. Not yet. 3 days later, the memories from the stolen cores were decrypted and broadcast publicly across Fex 5 and Earth's joint diplomatic channels. The truth, shattered walls, footage of secret meetings, hidden deals, experiments on captured species, the black market of Felian DNA and tech. It confirmed everything Reed had feared and more. Fox hadn't just been selling data, he'd been trading souls. The Felian government began sweeping reforms. Earth's council issued formal sanctions against those who had participated. Arrests were made, programs were shut down, and in the middle of it all, 2 names kept surfacing. Reed, Holden, Kikala Varn. They were called traitors by some, heroes by others, lovers, revolutionaries, legends. But they didn't stay for the celebrations. They left the day after the transmissions went out. With the help of Kikala's rebel contacts and Reed's science team, they quietly boarded a transport shuttle bound for Earth's outer colonies. Not as fugitives, not as spies, but as a family. Earth was colder than Kikala expected. The air was sharp and clean, filled with unfamiliar scents and unfamiliar sounds. But there was beauty here too. The blue sky, the birdsong, the trees with leaves that shimmered in golden light. Reed's parents lived on a peaceful agricultural station orbiting one of the human-settled moons. It wasn't luxurious, but it was quiet. Safe. Kikala stood on the back porch wrapped in a thick coat, staring up at the pale sky with both wonder and confusion. Reed stepped out beside her, 2 steaming cups in hand. "You okay?" She took the drink and nodded. "It's strange. Everything's different. Yet I don't feel out of place." He smiled. "You don't have to fit in. You just have to be." Kikala leaned into him. "Is that a human phrase?" "No," he said. "That one's just mine." Time passed faster than they expected. Kikala adjusted to life on Earth quicker than most thought she would. She spent her mornings studying Terran languages, her afternoons gardening in soil that still felt alive under her hands, and her evenings wrapped up with Reed, either reading, arguing playfully, or just holding each other in the silence of shared breath. And then, one quiet evening under a soft red moon, their child arrived. A girl, skin pale green with tiny flecks of shimmer like stardust, eyes violet like Kikala's, but with flecks of gold near the center, Reed's. Her hair came, in soft and white at first, then began turning a pale shade of silver blue. They named her Leora. It meant light in Old Felian. It meant my flame in one of Earth's forgotten languages. She was perfect. And she was living proof of something greater than politics, greater than borders. She was the proof that love between worlds didn't just exist. It could thrive. Years passed. Reed became an ambassador, unofficial at first, then official when both Earth and Fex 5 realized people trusted him more than their own leaders. He traveled often, giving speeches about peace and unity, reminding both sides of how close they'd come to war and how love had stopped it. Kikala led a new council on Fex 5, dedicated to rebuilding cultural respect and rewriting outdated laws about purity. She became a voice not just for her people, but for anyone who had ever felt like they didn't belong. She was fire and grace, heart and blade, and she never forgot the man who stood beside her when the world tried to tear them apart. Leora grew strong. She could speak 3 languages by the age of 4. By 6, she was asking about stars. By 10, she wanted to become a pilot. Half human, half Felian, all spirit. She was the kind of child who made even skeptics believe in the impossible. One evening, years later, Reed sat beside Kikala on their porch, watching Leora teach herself how to hover above the grass using hybrid tech she'd built from junk parts. "She's got your brain," Kikala said, sipping tea. "And your stubbornness," Reed replied. They smiled, fingers intertwined. "Did you ever think," Kikala said softly, "that this all started because I walked into your shower without knocking?" Reed chuckled. "You mean when you asked why I had a mini Shai Hulud between my legs?" She laughed, deep and rich. "Stars. I did say that, didn't I?" Loudly, Reed said. They both leaned back and watched the stars come out, bright pinpricks of distant possibilities, and somewhere, far beyond the moons, 2 planets continued to heal. Not because of policy, but because of love. Messy, wild, inconvenient love, the kind that breaks rules, the kind that changes history, the kind that makes people look at the stars and wonder, what else is possible? Reed turned to Kikala, brushing a strand of seafoam hair behind her ear. "You know," he said, "I still haven't paid rent." She grinned. "Oh, you will. I'm charging interest." And as they kissed beneath the open sky, their daughter's laughter echoed into the twilight. A human, a Felian, a child born of both, a family. The future wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, and that was more than enough. The end.